Welcome to the peer learning session. This is actually the fourth peer learning session. I just noticed on my screen it says number 3 of the Healthy Heart Learning Collaborative. And the Healthy Heart Learning Collaborative is a coalition of individuals with lived experience as a heart health or cardiovascular disease patient and caregiver, but also public health professionals, community members, and individuals from community-based organizations, and including faith-based organizations. And if you would like to learn more about the Healthy Heart Learning Collaborative, you can contact me, Shanta Jackson, directly, as we do anticipate recruiting more members to the HHLC in the near future. And so today's peer learning session is managing stress while caring for a loved one with heart disease. Our featured guest speaker, I'll let him tell you a little bit more about himself, but he is a licensed mental health professional. And just as a disclaimer, although this is a program of the Maryland Department of Health and its Center for Disease Prevention and Control, it's made possible by a grant from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, and the views expressed today do not necessarily reflect the policies of the Maryland Department of Health or the CDC. So that's our disclaimer there. And everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. And let's see. And today's session, again, it's tailored for caregivers, but all are welcomed. And this is a community peer learning space. Everyone's experience is valid. Share what you're comfortable sharing, and you can share out loud or in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, but feel free to step up and speak up. And I do have a question for you all. And I have a poll. Let's see if we can do it. And so the questions are, and this is not, like I said, everyone's welcome to participate, but this question actually helps our speaker to kind of make sure that he's tailoring it to the audience, even though you all did answer those registration questions. So the questions are you a caregiver? So are you an active caregiver to someone with a heart or cardiovascular disease condition, including hypertension? Or B, do you have experience as a caregiver, but you are currently not serving as one? Or are you someone, C, that may take on the role of caregiver soon? Or D, I am an active caregiver for someone, however, that person does not have a heart condition or CVD condition, or I'm not sure. Okay. And we have 3 of you have responded. That's for 4. Okay. Okay, this is really good. Walter, you can see these responses? Or do I have to end? Okay, and then the second question, are you a patient? Okay, and so I'll end the poll. Okay. Are you all able to see the responses on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this gives us an idea that we have caregiver, someone who may be a caregiver, and then a few folks who are not. However, they do, some do identify as patients. Okay, and then some folks are here to learn and to observe and to participate. So thank you all very much. Again, this just helps the speaker. And so at this time, I'll introduce Walter Williams. And so Walter, as I mentioned, he's a licensed professional counselor. He is the founder and CEO. He has his own practice. It's called Think and Grow, or Think and Grow LLC. And he's also an associate consultant with Cause Engagement Associates. And last year, he actually facilitated a peer learning session on grief and caregiver. So I'll step back because I know Walter has a lot and he'll introduce himself and he has his own slides. But I can say that I really do appreciate you being here, Walter. Not only as in your professional role, but also as an individual with lived experience.
Of course. And thank you for having me yet again. And I'm truly honored to be here. So, greetings to all. We have like a solid 45 minutes, so I'm gonna try to jam a lot in, but ultimately have some good discussion, and then get out the way because I don't want to stand in the way of you and some dinner time and your family time. I see we have the baby with us here. I'm going to share my screen. That way y'all can see what I see, and we can go from there. Can y'all see my main
Perfect.
screen here? Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, and I'm gonna just bam, little test run. Okay, good, good, good. Let's get rolling. Let's get rolling. Yes, last year I was able to be a part of this group and talk about grief, and I'm gonna allude to some of that a little bit more today because I think it's important that we spend a bit time discussing it because in my opinion, I believe we can move quite swiftly through some of our experiences and don't sit with what's underneath the stress. But ultimately, we're going to talk about managing stress today, emotional well-being, while taking care of yourself and taking care of others. So a little bit before we get started, I like to just warm up with something like this to take what you need as caregivers, as providers, as people who are in servant leadership roles. I think we give a lot, but this is something I want you to take for yourself. If you're open to putting it in the chat, what you're taking, or maybe writing it down in your notepad or on your phone, or even unmute yourself to say, "Here's what I'm taking from this list." And maybe you don't take it for yourself, maybe you take it for somebody else. I would love to hear your voice or see some comments in the chat. And I can't see the chat from my view, so if there are some things, if Ms. Jackson, if you don't mind shouting them out, that would be helpful to me.
But of course, so we're still waiting. So I encourage everyone. We people have need time to process, but definitely please do step up. So we have Miriam, great motivational phrases. Olivia, caring for myself is not selfish but necessary.
Yeah, that's it.
And some folks may be joining. They may not have visual, um, and they may not have sight of the screen. I'm just assuming some folks may be
Okay.
listening in as well.
Yeah.
Miriam, my needs matter too.
That's right, Miriam. Your needs do matter. Yeah, I can do
Fred,
hard things.
yep. Fred says the beginning is always today. I can do hard things. Dr. Florence Champagne says self care is not selfish.
That's right. That's right. Good, 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 good. Awesome. I just want you all to take some affirmation, some words for yourself, some encouragements for yourself. Again, I see that we have a variety of individuals in the building, some who are in the caregiving role, some who help people, and some who may be assuming the role. So I think it's important that we speak life into ourselves as well as we speak life into other people. But sometimes when we need to hear a word of encouragement, sometimes it coming from ourselves is just as good. So hopefully something on this can resonate with you and you can hold on to for as long as you need. Um, I see one came in from Alvin. Tired doesn't mean broken. Receiving is also an act of love. Right on. I can see my chat now, Miss Jackson. I was having a hard time, but good, good, good. Well, thank you all. Today, um, I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to talk at you. I'm here to talk with you. I see we have a lot of screens off and a lot of folks muted, which is perfectly fine. But there will be a section where I want us to have just some group dialogue. I do understand that this is a peer learning session, and you are the expert. I've just been asked to facilitate and to bring some of my expertise, and just have a conversation, which is what I'm intending to do here today. But I'm not here to fix anything. I'm not here to say you got to do more than what you're already doing. I will probably be insulting you by saying that you have to do any of that. Or judging some of the decisions you make. I think a lot of times we carry some shame when we have to make game time decisions and worry how others may perceive it. This is in that type of space. So hopefully we can have some good discussion. Maybe you can learn something or pick up a thing or two. Ultimately give you some tools that you can consider to take with you as you've been a caregiver, as you navigating cardiovascular life and all that comes with that. So about me, um, Walter Williams, born Chicago, Illinois, South Side. It was I've thought about how I wanted to start with this, but I'm gonna just dive right in. I'm given the time. It was April 17th, 2006, is when I learned of the true impact of cardiovascular disease. And I learned it after coming home from school, um, taking a nap. I had ate a nice hamburger, and then the doorbell rang uh, pretty rapidly. I grew up in a drug house, so my mother was a drug user, a drug dealer. So people rung our doorbell quite often. But this particular doorbell ring was unusual, and upon answering the door, I learned that it was the police. And of course, as a 15-year-old boy, my heart get to pounding. I know what's in the house, and oh man, Lord, please don't let the police come up in here with me and whatever's up in here, right? But they requested that I come with them to the hospital because my mother needed some paperwork, of which, knowing my mom, she did some things, right? She used drugs and was on the economic side of it. But one thing you couldn't catch her slipping on was handling her business. And they were saying that, hey, your mom needs her medical card. I grew up on public assistance. She said, hey, your mom needs her medical card at the hospital. Could you bring it and take it over there? I'm like, sure. I'm rummaging through her purse trying to find it, and then go with these officers to the hospital, only to discover that my mom had transitioned, that she had died of congestive heart failure. Upon going to the doctor and collapsing right in the doctor's office, my grandmother met me there, and upon the doctor sharing the news, the cause of death was congestive heart failure. It was in that instant that I became a caregiver. I watched my grandmother take this big gasp of air and almost freeze in the moment. And here I am, 15-year-old kid. What do I know? But I found myself having to control me and really lean and step up for her. This was my grandmother's second child that she lost. She had lost a son, now her daughter. I know my grandmother, she had had some heart surgery. She had a stent put in her heart. And I was a bit too young to understand the complexities of it, but she was able to get in front of it. And then fast forward, I began to learn that my grandmother had this heart condition. My mom, who had just died, had this heart condition. Fast 4 years later, I had an older brother who had the heart condition, and I had a sister who had a heart condition. So it was like this hereditary thing, all of which they all have transition. My older brother has transition, older sister has transition. I'm all from this cardiovascular disease, and it has caused me to really be intentional about how I live my life. Not that I'm like a health guru, but I take my heart serious, right? And I take how I care for my heart very serious because my goal and my mission, my personal mission, I just want to beat cardiovascular disease. That's my goal. I just want to beat it because my mom didn't beat it, my siblings didn't beat it, my grandmother was able to turn a corner on it. I don't know what's in store for me as I get older in age, but what I do know is what I can control today. So as a mental health professional, as someone with lived experience, in a variety of different ways, I stand before you as a licensed counselor, life coach, facilitator, senior consultant. I do a little bit of this, a community servant. I consider myself a servant leader because I believe in being in the work with my clients and being in the work with the people, not just standing from a podium and talking and saying, here's what you should do. That's why I said early on, I'm here to talk with you and not at you. My mission is to help people reshape and restructure how they live, how they think about their lives, about their perspective, how it shows up in their body, because that mind-body connection is real. How we begin to stir on things, to ruminate, begins to show up in our heart. I did the eulogy for my sister at her funeral, and that's what I talked about. Um, a broken heart, right? And when we look at biologically talking about the broken heart, but I also think about the depression and the anxiety and the PTSD that weighed on her heart um that led her to, in my opinion, an untimely death. But I think we could debate that in a different session of, when is the time, right? Because we all traveling on a level of time. It's important to me now that people that I'm associated with, that I live with, that I communicate with, knows the importance of their health, and but also just taking care of themselves and managing the stress. Not that stress disappears, because some stress is good for us, right? When we think about working out, stressing our body, but it's good to get our heart pumping, our lungs strong. But what we consume mentally, what we consume with our eyes, what we consume with our mouth, and how it impacts our body and our spirit along the way. So that's a little bit about me and what has allowed me to have somewhat of authority to speak to the subject. Um, but I'll be remiss to acknowledge the stress that comes with being a caregiver. Um, as I mentioned, having to automatically assume the role of a caregiver to my grandmother. Mind you, I'm the youngest of four. I was always considered the little big brother. My siblings made some choices in life that I just didn't. So I was the one who was left responsible for a bit of everything. My older brother was in and out of jail. My older sister decided to leave to go out and figure out life on her own. And here I am, me and my sister that's right above me, having to be a provider, to be a caretaker to my grandmother and to her and to myself. And again, as a youth, what do I know about life? What do I know about taking care of someone else? But it was the stress of just not knowing if I had enough, not knowing if I was doing enough. Having someone to show me, right, what it takes to be a provider, to be a caretaker. And as it grew into my adulthood, I found myself still being a caretaker and a provider for my older siblings. Life had their way of throwing things, had its way of throwing things at them, but helping them with housing, helping them with their health, helping them to navigate different systems that they've been caught up in. And it was when I decided to set some boundaries, is when I began to feel a heavier level form of grief. It was when I decided that I had to take my life a bit more serious, that I felt this loss, if you will, because a lot of my identity had been so caught up in taking care of them that I really didn't know how to take care of myself. I really didn't know what it means to put me first. And I felt that. I felt that. It was this guilt that came. It was this embarrassment, really, and the shame that came because I felt as if I was letting my mom down, right? Who was no longer with us, but I felt like I was letting her down. So when we talk about caregiving and we talk about stress, it doesn't just show in one form or another, right? And when we're thinking about navigating cardiovascular disease, as a caregiver, as a caretaker, as a provider, the stress that come with it, I think a lot of people may find difficult to express, may find difficult to even communicate because it's a feeling that you have that if you don't go through it, if you're not in it, it's kind of hard to speak to it. But I am curious if someone's bold and want to answer this question. I'm just curious of your experience, just to dive right to this. Just thinking about CVD, what has made caregiving maybe difficult for you? What are some of those feelings that may have come up for you in the role of caregiving? Or maybe if you're someone who's looking to become a caregiver, um, what feeling is coming up for you with that? If you don't mind sharing, I would love to hear it.
I'll take a stab at it.
Sure, sure.
Um, Not living up to your parents' or your mother's expectations. Like if you have someone that's constantly criticizing you, that is one of them. And then not having them listen to you, like the roles are reversed, and you're trying to help them, whether it's taking their meds or uh, bathing or whatever, and they're constantly fighting you because you're telling them what to do or asking them what to do, and they don't want to do it, or they just give you some pushback because they're like, my mother's 94 years old and I can't tell her what to do, type of thing.
I completely understand. I'm hearing you just talk about the resistance that's met, right? Here you are, laboring in love, sacrificing, and then is met with some pushback, or some disagreement. And it's like, hey, I'm trying to help you, and but you're my mom, right? And I want to do what's in the best interest of us both. I completely understand that, and that's difficult to navigate. That can be very
Right.
difficult to navigate. Because it's a respect thing. It's also a deference. You mom, I'm your
Yes.
daughter. But here I am caring after you, right? Which shifts the energy just a little bit because here I am in control of of your health at this point in time. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Florence. I see Alvin put in the chat. One difficulty is the constant. Oh, I done lost it. It's the constant responsibility of being a caregiver. Yeah, I can certainly hear how that is stressful. Mariam say it is the frustration you get because they are not responsible for their health. Yeah, when we're caregiving, it puts us in a control seat, if you will, or being forced to control or to be responsible for someone else's health. Absolutely. I would say even when I'm trying to rest and focus or something on something else, I'm still thinking about my wife, her medicine, how she is feeling, if everything is okay. If it is like you are always on alert and you never get a chance to turn that switch off. Yeah, that's real, Al. That's real. It's like this constant hum in the back of your mind, this constant. And I can resonate with that tremendously as my siblings got older. My older brother, as I mentioned, was in and out of jail my entire life, and my sister was dealing with some depression and alcoholism. But it was always this thought in the back of my mind, like, am I doing enough to support them? Am I doing enough to show up for them? Do they know how much I care? Can they feel it? Yeah, it was always there. It was always there. Um, some other thoughts people may be having but not sharing, a lack of time for self, the emotional weight, fear that comes with caregiving for someone and not knowing if you may walk in and find them no longer breathing. Unfortunately, that was my experience with my sister. I was the one who found her body, and it was like wow, just a surreal moment. Role strain, as Miss Florence, Dr. Florence was talking about, right? Is these competing of roles: mom, daughter, caregiver, caretaker. One that you're responsible for. Two adult women with lived experiences. It's this constant, role reversal and role strain that catches up. Sometimes feeling alone is something that I think many caregivers can have, because leadership is lonely. And again, when you're in a position where people may not quite fully understand, I think it'd be difficult to explain at times. Yeah. None of what you all are sharing here is abnormal. It's actually quite normal. But it happens when responsibility outweighs sometimes the support we have. When we think about stress, right? Stress eventually leads to this emotional exhaustion. And when we're emotionally exhausted for whatever reason, right? Trying to care for ourselves, trying to manage our roles, manage work, on top of caregiving, this emotional exhaustion can lead to this feeling of disconnection. And that feeling of disconnect can be from oneself. It can be from the things that you enjoy. It can actually begin to be from the people that you're caring for, right? Because in a way they're beginning to transform and change, and you too are transforming and changing right before the person's eyes, right? And if we're not careful with this disconnection can cause us to begin to have some health implication, right, where we're neglecting our needs, getting some good rest, eating well, being physically active, maybe working, maybe taking care of our daily living activities, whatever it may be. But I think when we're constantly under this and experiencing this, it leads to what I'll call a- ambiguous loss. And that gets a little bit to what I was alluding to last year around grief. And I think ambiguous loss, Dr. Pauline Boss, she coined this term about 40 years or so ago. And ambiguous loss is essentially it's unclear loss. That's what it is, unclear loss. It's when someone is physically lost, but psychologically present, or when someone is physically present, but psychologically lost. We can think of um, uh, um, an unpleasant breakup, right? Where the person you've been dating for so long, you decided to split. Now they out in the world, no longer physically there, but they still mentally there, right? Or individuals that you may be caring after, they're not able to be as active as they once were, be as alert as they once were, or as compassionate or as patient as they once were. So it's this constant back and forth that we have of a person, who can be physically present, psychologically not present and vice versa. And it creates this feeling, as I was alluding to earlier, but that's undescribable. And when I learned about this ambiguous loss, it was like, that's it. That's it, right? It's when feeling like something is there, but it's not there. And what I'd imagine as caregivers, as providers, as people who work in this field, um, it eventually leads to what we call frozen grief, right? And that's when the person has not transitioned from the physical, but what you did together is no longer there, right? It's no longer able, it's no longer capable. So I'd imagine, just thinking about Dr. Florence, how it was as a little girl, mom taking care of her, and now, being the one responsible for taking care of mom and being met with the resistance. And the mom I once knew, right? The mom that I still know, and having to grieve that, that's a heavy weight that I think goes unacknowledged and doesn't go discussed and processed enough as caregivers. And I think that's what leads to a lot of our stress. I think that's what leads to a lot of a burnout, and we'll talk about that here in a second, where we're exhausted, we depleted, and then we don't know what to do. And then if I'm not well, how can I help you be well, right? But that's what this is, and I'm curious to hear if anyone have any thoughts on this. Again, I want this to be more of a discussion, not a lecture or me just presenting. Um, but you grieve the person they were before the illness, right? You grieve routines and roles, plans that have changed, your own time and energy, the future you imagine. I think a lot of times when we're in certain positions, we wouldn't have imagined it to be the way it is, or ended up in the position that it did. But somehow it did. But it doesn't change the impact of the weight that it has on you. Can anyone resonate with this and what I'm saying? I mean, if so, you can give me a thumbs up, throw it in the chat, or maybe even unmute and share a comment or two. Okay. Okay, I got a wave. Right on, right on. I just want to make sure it resonates because I don't want to skip and go over this because really what I want to do in this area is just give you all some language. Um, because as providers, as caregivers, I don't think people quite understand. And even we may not have the language. So when someone say, hey, what are you experiencing? Is ambiguous loss, right? My person's here, but they're not here. Um, do I have a comment? Get some feedback. For sure. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna keep us rolling. I'm gonna keep us rolling because I can get caught up on this. I'm saying all that to say, team, when we don't have the language or when we're ignoring the signs of our own stress, I call it a slow burn, right? Where we're leading up to this burnout, where we're exhausted but can't rest, worrying even when things are technically fine, feeling guilty for your own feelings. I saw Alvin was sharing earlier, just having this hum in the back of the mind all the time, not knowing how to answer, how are you? Typically, how are you? I'm good, but are we really? You know? Like what does it mean to be good, right? What does it mean to be fine with all that one is dealing with and experiencing? I'm feeling like one can't ask for help. I think this is an area a lot of us men struggle with. I was talking to a client yesterday about that. Like, I struggle to ask for help, because it makes me look weak. It makes me sound weak. And I think a lot of men, we carry that idea that asking for help is a signal or a sign of weakness, when in fact, it really displays our strength and our ability to be vulnerable, to say, hey, let's partner, right? Let's collaborate to support or to do. Um, so yeah, it's one of those. It's a slow burn, and if we're not careful and able to recognize the signs early on, I think it can lead to more chronic irritability. I can think it can cause us to lash out. It can create this persistent level of anxiety, right, where we always in this constant state of worry. Even resentment can come up, right, where we start to resent the people we even care for and care about. Physical impact, right, our own health can start to deteriorate, and or we start to cope in unhealthy ways. And again, burning the candle from both ends of the stick. And we find that if we're not well, how can we ensure that the people we care about as well? How can we ensure that they're getting the best that they need? So some ideas to just put in your back pocket as you're navigating caregiving. And then after this, I want to open it up for some discussion. So I want to hear some more of your voices. When it comes to caregiving, I think one of the things I want to invite you all to think about first in managing your stress is important to think about how you think about it, your mindset, your mind framing. When it comes to ambiguous loss, or when it comes to grief, when it comes to managing the reality of your situation, I think it's important that that we realize that the individual, it how can I put this? I think it's important that we realize that the individual we're supporting, that we transform their presence into something that's of a greater cause. And what I mean by that is, can we use the pain, the grief, the agony, the discomfort, the displeasure to motivate us to go do something greater than ourselves or for a greater cause. Being a part of opportunities like these is one. Raising funds for heart disease is another. Advocating for the government to make sure funds are backing these programs like this one to ensure that people get the information and the support they need. Right? We can take our pain and then turn it into some purpose work, which gives us a little bit of a relief in knowing that the work we put in isn't in vain. A second thought process that I want to invite you to consider is what I call both and thinking. I think in the eastern part of the world, here is a black and white thinking. It's either this or that. In the Western world, it's often both and. Um, for example, my mother is gone and she's here with me at the same time, right? It sounds weird, but I know physically she's gone, but mentally, right, she's here with me. Um, I think about that with my siblings, right? I know physically they're no longer with me, but mentally and spiritually, I feel their comfort. I had a terrible loss and I had a wonderful gain. I can show up as strong and dependable caregiver and feel overwhelmed, tired, and emotionally drained, right? I can hope for good days and I can accept that the reality of what it is, right? Both and, in my opinion, become important because what it allows you to do is then to have some power to choose, which leads us to thinking about the stages of grief. If you're familiar with them, one of the stages is acceptance. And I think the way the theorists put it together, it seems as if you go through each step at a time. And in reality, it's a cycle because you can go from a shock stage to a denial stage to an anger stage to an acceptance stage back to a depression stage. We can jump from stage to stage, but the power in choosing to accept the reality gives you choice. And I think as caregivers, and as providers, it's important that we recognize the choice we have, because there's a lot of things, as we know, as providers that are beyond our control. With the individuals that we're supporting and showing up for. Um, but some other tools, hopefully that makes sense. Just giving you some things to think about for the mindset. Other tools that I want you to consider is boundaries. And this is you setting a tone for how you want to be treated, right? When you respond to a message, yeah, when you choose to go to bed, how much you commit to, how much you choose to carry, honoring the time for yourself, right? Setting some things in place that feels truthful for you and feels like you honoring you. Because when we don't have boundaries, I think it gives people permission to treat us and try to do us any type of way. Having a script to ask for help, this is something that I love to do, particularly with my individual clients. Just helping them to find a language to express and to communicate. And if anyone ever needs some support with that, reach out to me, or reach out to Miss Jackson, and she'll get you in contact with me. I'm more than happy to help you come up with the script because sometimes we don't know how to ask for help. We don't know what to say. And it's oftentimes in our own mind that I think prevents us from being able to do so. But I need a hug. Would you be able to help me with that? Right. Or I need you to just fill in for me for 10 minutes. Would you be able to support me? Or I just need you to go for a walk with me. Right. Just being able to ask for what we need and not be ashamed of being able to do so. What I call a stress audit, right? Asking yourself, getting a moment of quiet. What am I carrying right now? And what actually belongs to someone else? It's a lot of stuff that we carry that don't belong to us, team. A lot of stuff we carry that don't belong to us. So if we can often just slow down and ask ourselves this question, it allows us to then redistribute the things that we have on our plate so that we're not overwhelmed with stuff that we probably don't need to be carrying anyways. Name entertainment. What I mean by that is just talking about it, right? Articulating and expressing what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. Because the moment you're able to release it from your mouth, it no longer consumes you. I was just talking with a client a couple hours ago. He was like, "Wow, just saying it, I just feel better." That's just the power in language, right? Once we're able to verbalize what we are feeling, what we're experiencing, we realize that it doesn't weigh on us as much and as heavy. So being able to name how you're feeling, and where it's coming from you. Protect the non-caregiver identity, right? We're more than just caregivers. As with daughters, sons, spouses, brothers, sisters, uncles. I mean, and many of you are professionals, right? We have so many roles. So I think it's important that we tap into these other areas that give us that sense of who we are, whether it's working out, whether it's a hobby that you enjoy, some painting, still dedicating some time for that to give us some relief, a break, if you will. And then community as medicine, right? That's what this space is for. Peer learning, where we get together, talk about it, normalize it, and also to say, hey, you're not the only one. You're not the only one, because sometimes it can feel like you're the only one in it. Any other tools that anyone uses currently that you want to just put in the space really quick? Throw it in the chat or unmute and say. Hopefully, I'm not moving too fast. I'm trying to be mindful of your time.
You're not moving too fast.
Okay, okay. I tend to think I am sometimes. Well, maybe we can revisit this question a little bit.
Yeah, I like, so I'll just add, I'll let you continue, but for me, what resonated on this screen as someone that can provide resources and support or maybe serve as an advocate for caregivers is definitely community as medicine. I like that concept. And I think that those are different ideas. And I'm even thinking about respite as well, or assistance and some time, some breaks that could be offered for caregivers. And so these, what you're talking about, and even the comments, these are things that we possibly can apply in the near future as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. Um, let's talk. Let's talk. We do have two gentlemen, Mr. Fred and Mr. Alvin, who agreed to just share a little bit about their experience as being caregivers and caretakers for their loved ones. So I just want to invite them to share some thoughts. Again, you all are the expert. I'm just here to facilitate. And Mr. Fred, I'll start with you first. If you don't mind, in a minute or two, just share us a little bit about your experience, man, of how you've cared for your loved one and maybe how it has impacted you and what you learned about yourself during the time. Okay, Mr. Fred may have taken a break. Let's jump to Mr. Alvin then, if you can hear me.
No, I'm right here.
Oh, there we go. What's up, Fred? How you doing, man?
Yes. Sorry, yeah, I'm fine. I was having issues unmuting my device.
All good.
So
All
yeah,
good.
I'm actually a patient, yeah, and not actually a caregiver, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, how I manage stress, it gets a little bit overwhelming at times, because the world doesn't necessarily pause because you're having some health challenges or stuff like that. Things still go on as usual out there in the world. You still have bills and a lot of expectations, worldly expectations, I would say, to meet up with. Um, Alongside with your health challenges and your routine medications and all that. So it gets really overwhelming and gets mentally stressful. I usually have this burnout where I don't actually know what more to do. I don't actually have the right answers, or I don't have answers to a whole lot of questions I have.
Mhm.
And more so, I do have a caregiver, but that's my nephew. He's all grown though. He's all grown though, but he's only able to provide the minimal support, and I still have to do a few other things myself, including setting up my medications, my appointment, and also have to do some of my personal work myself, like my job. I still work remotely. I still try to, put a finger or two together to make sure that I'm raising some kind of income to support with my medication as well as the family. So, juggling all this with a heart issue can be very, very painful and, very, very, very frustrating because at times I miss deadlines I miss deadlines, of which I can't even point at a blame finger on my superiors because they lash out on me. I don't expect them to, sympathize with me based on the fact that I have some health complications and all that. But I just have to take it, sober up, and get back to work. Still try my best to make sure that I get that paycheck to settle up the next bill. And yeah, so juggling work and family and my health condition is just so overwhelming, and I get little to no time to reflect back and try to ease myself of the burnout.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Fred. And it sounds like, in trying to juggle and balance everything, some things get a little heavy on one side than the
Yeah,
other at times. I can
yeah,
completely
right.
understand that. But
Yeah,
but I'm also hearing where you've been challenged to lead with faith and not with fear, where you having to just trust everything's going to work out as best it can with what you have. Um,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, and that there is what you can't control, right? Because I think if we're being led by the fear, it keeps us withdrawn or not quick to ask for help and identify
Y-
some things you're sharing. But that faith says, I don't have it all together. I don't know all the answers, but I'm gonna keep showing up and do the
But
best I can with what I have. That's great.
yes, 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 yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Of course. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Alvin, you care to share some thoughts briefly here? And if I remember, I think Alvin, did he share last time?
Yeah, I can. Good
Yes.
day, everybody.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you now, Alvin.
my name
Welcome.
is Alvin. I'm a husband and a caregiver. Um, yeah, I did. Okay. I'm
Uh-oh.
supporting my wife who is living with a heart attack. I have a session before and I'm back again. I mainly share. I learned something new that helps me at home. So living with this experience at home, I would say it's not doing it every day. And admitting the small adjustments you have to make and all tends to shape you. So one of the major big parts of me has been the medication management. So it sounds well, I say it sounds simple, but it's not always easy. There are days where you have tight schedules and you're thinking about work, you're thinking about family needs, you're thinking about household responsibilities and all. And in the middle of all that, you still need to make sure medications are taken at the right time and in the right way. And sometimes I set reminders. I sometimes try to write it down, and sometimes I just have to stop what I'm doing to make sure it's done properly. And it teaches me a lot of discipline, and but it also adds pressure because you do not want to miss anything. And
Yeah, yeah.
one of the challenge I mostly face is having to manage my time. Before this, I used to think I was organized, but caregivers showed me a very literally different level of responsibility. My plans can mostly change very quickly. On a normal day, I can shift if my wife is not feeling well or if we need to monitor something more closely. So I have learned to be flexible. My I plan my day, but I also leave space for mostly unexpected situations because you don't know what might come up next. And it's not always easy balancing that with work and family, but you still learn as you go.
Yeah.
Uh, Emotionally, I can say is really very heavy. Sometimes as a husband, you must be strong, but you also carry work quietly. People feel well. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to be emotional. You're supposed to chest in everything. Um, there are moments where you're observing every small changes. You're asking yourself if everything is okay, and over time, I would say that mentally builds up, and this is something many caregivers do not really talk about. We focus more on so much on the person we are supporting, and we forget about our own stress is also real. Yeah. Uh, I would say mental health is really very important, especially the awareness that comes with it in this space. So I have noticed that caregiving is mostly invincible. People see the patients, but they don't really see the caregiver who is also trying to adjust their life, just leave their plans and sometimes even their own health. Last year in one of our sessions, I remember realizing I was not alone in feeling this way, and that has helped me a lot. Yeah, just knowing other people who have similar experiences that I have, and that has actually helped me cope in communication at home. My wife and I, we try to talk openly about how she's feeling and how she's managing things, and yeah, I'm also sorry.
No, you got it. I think someone was coughing.
Okay, sorry. My wife and I, we mostly try to talk about everything openly and how she's feeling and how she's managing things, and that balance is really important because caregiving should not feel like one person is carrying the whole burdens and all. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
gotcha.
would
Gotcha.
I would just say that caregiving is love. It's also responsibility. It's also a lot of emotional work. So it's not always easy. But being part of these communities helped me feel more grounded and more informed. Thank you so much.
That's wonderful, Alvin. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You hit on that point I was making, that both and, right? It's love and there's responsibility, right? I love my wife and this is stressful and I'm responsible and I can drop the ball at times, right? Both things can be true. And I don't think, one outweighs the other. And I heard you talk about managing time. I've learned that time's an illusion because it was here before us and it's going to be here way after us and it's constantly moving. But the best thing we could do is manage the task, right? Just managing the task that's in front of us, what we've been assigned to for the day. And I like how you put it, man, just leaving some room, what I call room for error or room for the unexpected because things come up and some things we can't plan for. But when we just learn to manage tasks, I think time just keep passing and keep flowing because it's an illusion, man. But thank you both for sharing, and thank you for just holding the space and doing the things that you're doing. Absolutely. Miriam, I see you have your hand up. Would love to hear your thoughts, and I got some questions here for the rest of us, outside of Mr. Alvin and Fred. If anyone care to answer one of the questions or just share from their lived experience, Miriam, I'm gonna come to you, please.
Hi. Thank you for the invite. I just want to share experience that we have here with a client. When I heard your story about you as a kid taking care of an older person, I'm thinking about this family where the father is taking care of his son that is 50-year old with a muscular dystrophy, and it is so sad to see him, the dad, here in the office trying to take care of his health issues, his health problems, and at the same time trying to take care of his child at home. Well, he says his child, my son, and I cannot let him die. I have to keep an eye on him when he's trying to choke with a piece of food. So
Mm,
it's very sad for me to hear that. And at the same time, I think what is going to happen if I'm going to be in a similar situation where I have to take care someone else in my family, which could be my mom or my husband in this case. Couple experiences that the people who are here mentioned, but it's an encouragement for me, to hear all these stories. I really appreciate the information you have provided us and how to manage our feelings, our emotions, our mental health, because we can't forget about us, our stability, our and I thank you so much for all your recommendations, your reflections that we have to take in consideration at the moment we are going to be um, having this role in our lives. Thank
of
you.
course. Of course. Thank you, and thank you for sharing. And my heart kind of skipped a beat when just hearing the dad. I can't let him die. I just thought about the weight that that must feel. That's some weight. That's some weight right there. And that level of responsibility, you know. Um, yeah, that's something. I know we getting cut tight on time, but if folks can stay for an extra 10 minutes or so, because I'd love to just hear some more voices, and people's thoughts regarding these questions, that would be greatly appreciated. But let's get through what we can. Anyone else care to maybe take a shot at one of these questions? You know, when you noticing yourself starting to feel overwhelmed, what do you typically do? What parts of yourself has gone quiet since you've become a caregiver or someone with lived experience? What do you wish someone had told you before this journey has begun? Feel free to throw it in the chat or unmute and let us hear your voice. Ask for help to the rest of the family. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes we can feel like we're the only one. That was one of my things too, Miriam, of it has to be me. I can't let this happen. I have to be the one, and just owning so much and the weight that that comes with, how exhausting that is. But asking for help, and having everyone chip in. Again, it's partnership, it's collaboration. How can we support our loved one? How can we come together and carry it? Yeah, I love that. Any others, or any other thoughts or comments? You know, as a therapist, I operate in silence, so I can. That's my zone right there. But I won't belabor the moment because I know we getting tight to the hour. Alvin put in the chat. I think my carefree side. Before all of this, I don't think so much about every little thing. Now I'm more alert, more careful. I still try to laugh and be present. But that light, worry-free part of me is not as loud as it used to be. I completely hear that. It's that feeling of being on, having to be on all the time. As we talked about, that constant worry that's there, you know, and especially when it's a spouse. So we're talking multi layers of love and affection and intimacy and things. Um, and it was good to hear too, Alvin. I just wanted to comment. You know, you and your wife still having communication, and hopefully in that communication, that is a moment of connection for the two of you, and a moment of intimacy, right? And intimacy isn't always a sexual thing, but it's into my heart, right? Into me, I want you to continue to see and know and learn and appreciate because I'm not the person that I was when we first met. We evolve, we change. Join caregivers groups. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Being a part of spaces like these or other support groups or even talking with a professional that gets it, that will hold space for you. I think that's so important because it's not meant for us to carry this all by ourselves. And if someone think that's the case, I just want to tell you that's not going to it's not going to last. That exhaustion is real. That burnout is real. But all in all, I just want you to just take, hopefully you're able to take something away from the discussion today. I'm already hearing some good feedback. Um, as an official closeout, and you don't have to unmute, if you could just put it in the chat, what is one small thing you're willing to do for yourself this week or in the coming weeks? And or what's one thing you want to carry from today's discussion with you as you continue to show up for yourself, show up for the ones that you love, and the ones that you care about. So just one small thing. Maybe it's a new boundary. Maybe it's taking yourself for some ice cream. Maybe it's getting a nap. Maybe it's letting the ball drop, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, I just got to let this fall because I just need a break. And I think that's okay as well. Allow myself to feel the both and absolutely, because two things could be true. Remember that you matter too, absolutely. Um, Not running back and forth constantly. Ooh. We can unpack that all day, Dr. Florence. Yeah, they're running back. Yeah. Sometimes saying I'm unable to right now. And no doesn't mean definite. Sometimes it's just not right now. I'm unable to. And that's okay. And people gonna feel how they feel. We can't control that. where we can control what we say and what we do. I'll take a few minutes each day just for myself, even if it's just sitting quietly or taking a short walk without feeling guilty about it. Alvin, you speaking my language there, man. I swear by that. I'll call it the 10% principle. Just give yourself 10% of the day because the 90 is going to be ate up regardless. But if we can give ourselves 10%, I think it helps us to get some a sound mind, to get grounded and to keep showing up the best we can, and allow ourselves to reflect more. Thank you, Fred. Yeah. Reflecting is good, but we don't want to get stuck in some of those thoughts because that's when we can get depressed. But reflecting, remembering, acknowledging, and then coming back to the present because that's what a miracle is in the present. But I'll stop there. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, something was said that resonated and give you something to think about, Ms. Jackson. Thank you and your team for allowing me to share the space again. And I'll turn the mic over back to you.
Yes, thank you. And in closing comments, Fred says allowing myself to reflect more, excuse me, to reflect more. But then also in the comment, I lost it. CityCot says caregivers are amazing people that requires special place in my heart. I meant the honest and responsible ones. And so that was a comment there in the chat.
For sure.
And
Thank
so, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. As a final next step, I will send to you all via email an evaluation link. We are offering a caregiver journal for those of you who would like to receive it. And so, in the at the end of the survey, you just let us know if you're interested, and you will receive it via mail. And at this time, and the link is in the chat for that survey as well. We like to know, I mean, it really helps us because we actually use your feedback to inform what our topics are. And it helps us to build like a library of different topics. And then remember, this is a program of the Maryland Department of Health, and they have other partners, including public health departments, community-based organizations, and other providers. And so the information that you all share is something that we advise and we share with them so that they could hopefully take and implement into their own practices and their own programs to serve everyone.
Looks like the folks need access to the document.
Okay.
If you can grant that.
Interesting.
Just a Google
Sorry
button.
about that. It says published. Okay, give me one moment. Okay, sorry about that. It should be fine now. And I'll email it to you all. So if you can't do it now, it's okay. I'll send you an email as well. Okay. But thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I appreciate you spending
Yes.
some time with me on a Tuesday evening.
I know, and thank you, Walter. This was
Of
very
course.
good.
Well,
Yeah.
Ms. Jackson, if I could, can I just open the floor for any questions people may have? I know I asked if they'll stay a few
Sure.
minutes. I
Sure.
like to respect people's time. Any questions anyone have of me specifically or broadly regarding the work that I do or something that was said? I'm gonna leave a minute or two for that.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. I just like to
I-
check.
I'll say something. So you have a lot of personal experience with counseling and things like that. I'm just wondering, do any of your clients feel like since you are a young person, uh, like what do you know to tell me, or like because of you being so young, um, basically I'm 67 years old and my mother's 94, and she still puts me in my place and tells me, you know, I can do whatever I want to do. So I was just wondering about that.
Yes, ma'am. Great question. So my caseload right now ranges from 18 to 66, actually. So I have a very broad caseload of clients, of different experience. But with clients who are my senior, my elder, if you will, honestly, I
Hmm.
haven't gotten any of that pushback of, me being young and not having enough life experience. My approach is always to meet my clients where they are, not to try to get them to where I am. I don't position myself as the expert. I like to get in to work with my clients, not just dictate or say, here's what you should do. I find myself sitting in it with them and being able to understand it from their perspective. And the more that I'm able to understand it from their perspective, it allows me to increase my empathy and also be very strategic with how I show up for them, how I validate, and how I support them in whatever it is that they're experiencing. So I think my youth affords me some great opportunities to have conversations because now generationally I get to share some insight that I think is helpful. In a way it also heals me. As crazy as that sound, because a lot of my grandmother and my mom, all of them have transitioned. I'm able to still learn and get some wisdom from my clients too, if that makes sense. So I've never gotten any pushback. I would say my clients who I'm thinking of one gentleman, I actually talked to him today. He just always appreciative of just being thought about, being considered. I'm not being judged, and just having someone who hold the space for him. And he found that alone to be very helpful.
That's great. I think everyone needs a counselor. So that's
Yes,
great. I really applaud you.
thank you, thank you. I was nervous at first when I had those clients. I'm like, ooh, to your point, I'm like, are they gonna listen to me? They gonna, little boy me or son me? But I think my approach has allowed them to let their guards down and really, and they're two male clients. The vulnerability, the openness that they have to my feedback. Yeah, it's been really,
Hmm.
really enlightening, I would say.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Great
All
question.
right. Thank you.
Of course. Anything else? I know we almost at that 10 minutes over. Okay, cool. I'll stop. Thank you, Miss Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.